When Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon burned the temple and destroyed Jerusalem, the initial reaction was one of overwhelming grief and sadness, and that's represented primarily in the Book of Lamentations. It's a very short book of dirges that laments the loss of Jerusalem as the death of a beloved person. And it's traditionally attributed to Jeremiah. The Bible itself doesn't make this claim. It's an old tradition. It may have arisen, however, because of all of the prophets. Jeremiah is the one who reveals the most to us about his personal suffering and grief, and because he was present as an eyewitness at the destruction. There's no real logical development of ideas in Lamentations, primarily because it's structured by an artificial device. There are 5 chapters, and 4 of the chapters are acrostic poems. This means that each verse, or sometimes a series of verses, begins with a letter of the alphabet in sequence. So in chapter 3, you have 3 verses per letter of the alphabet. But this kind of acrostic poetic formation gives the poem a kind of formal unity at the same time that it has no logical unity or logical flow. And it's been pointed out that that form is particularly appropriate for an expression of grief that is too profound or too all-encompassing to be logical. The Lamentations over Jerusalem resemble very much David's Lamentations over Saul. The mourner spends time contrasting the former splendor of the beloved to his or her present state. And we have lots of ancient Near Eastern prototypes for this kind of lamentation. Lamentations over destroyed cities, which are understood as the result of the deity's decision to abandon the city. And in Lamentations, we're given a very detailed picture of the great suffering that accompanied the final collapse. Lamentations 1:1. Alas, lonely sits the city, once great with people. She that was great among nations is become like a widow. The princess among states is become a thrall. Or chapter 4. Alas, the gold is dulled, debased, the finest gold. The sacred gems are spilled at every street corner, the precious children of Zion. Once valued as gold, alas, they are accounted as earthen pots, work of a potter's hands. Even jackals offer the breast and suckle their young, but my poor people has turned cruel, like ostriches of the desert. The tongue of the suckling cleaves to its palate for thirst. Little children beg for bread, none give them a morsel. Those who feasted on dainties lie famished in the streets. Those who were reared in purple have embraced refuse heaps. The guilt of my poor people exceeded the iniquity of Sodom, which was overthrown in a moment without a hand striking it. Her elect were purer than snow, whiter than milk. Their limbs were ruddier than coral. Their bodies were like sapphire. Again, the description of the physical beauty of the beloved. And now their faces are blacker than soot. They are not recognized in the street. Their skin has shriveled on their bones. It has become dry as wood. Better off were the slain of the sword than those slain by famine, who pined away as though wounded for lack of the fruits of the field. With their own hands, tender-hearted women have cooked their children. Such became their fare in the disaster of my poor people. The poet here, though, does adopt the standard Deuteronomistic interpretation of events, which infers sin from suffering, and therefore harps on the sin and the uncleanness of Jerusalem that brought on this calamity, right? Their guilt exceeded the iniquity of Sodom in the passage we just read. And this is a strategy that, of course, justifies God. The poet singles out the corrupt priests, the corrupt prophets for blame. He attacks the popular ideology of the inviolability of Zion. Israel's many sins are what caused Yahweh to pour out his wrath and destroy Jerusalem utterly. And the descriptions of Yahweh's wrath, anger, his consuming rage, these are some of the most powerful and most violent poetry in the Hebrew Bible. They tend to divert attention, in fact, from the people's guilt and focus attention on their suffering. Children crying for bread, children starving to death, women raped, men abused.